Happy Tuesday. They had usually Tuesday and Thursday mornings. These days, have they schedule on success stories, answer students' questions, especially when it comes to anything step one, step two, and anything and everything. Actually, I mean, it's these sessions are for you to make sure everyone is ready and prepared for their exams. Right? So we wish I could be able to answer these questions. Most of the questions are the same. So I figured why not have a community like this to help each other out, participate when we can, to share our experiences, concerns. So today we're going to do some special meaning NBMEs. And we'll do more of these. I think we'll start doing more of these more Tuesday and Thursday mornings. Again, I have the Tuesday and Thursdays for you guys, but no one's sending me any topics to review. Clearly, we have to do something. So NBMEs are very, very challenging. Many students don't do well in NBMEs. The sad part is that schools expect us to do well. And if you don't do well, then you can't sit for the step exam, right? So this is what I've been begging medical schools to really focus on. Because if you're in school, you learn class, and then you study for an NBME assessment test to make sure you do well or not. Sometimes people stop there. Problem though is no one's teaching you how to read these questions. Fortunately, I think they're very, very difficult questions. That's why the actual USMLE exam is nothing like an NBME. NBMEs are there to gauge your readiness. So any one of us, doctors, people teaching, mentoring, coaching in this community for medicine, if you can pass an NBME more than once, obviously, well, that clearly indicates that you have enough knowledge to put the pieces together, right? Because if they give you the bare minimum and you could still do well, you know the information. Versus the Q banks that we use, UWorld and Amboss, which are literally exact, very similar to the actual exam, they give you lots of more information. And have you realized that the NBMEs are 200 questions? There's blocks of 50, not 40. And they're really, really short. So that's why the majority trip and fall, because I would too. I was in their shoes without preparation, studying, and training. So I tell all my students, in order for you to walk in and sit for an assessment test that school wants you to sit for, you should prepare yourself with doing NBMEs. I have offline because I can't put on online. 25 to 30. I cannot provide that to you guys. It's unethical. The offlines, and you can find anything you want online. Just gonna say that. I've chosen a few questions from NBME, which we'll go over questions one by one, and then we'll go to the answer choices and just show you how to attack a couple. Again, if you find difficulty in the NBMEs, it's typically because they're giving you very, very little information. When you take Amboss and UWorld, they give you lots of findings, information, and different hints to lead to the answer. So again, if you are having difficulty, it could be mainly because of combination of content. That being said, don't memorize NBMEs, not worth it. You can use NBMEs, but there's a reason why people read NBMEs to fail, because they're reading the case in front of them. Reality, need a lot more to know beyond that case, right? So that's why I want to do this. I wish schools would do more of it. They're not. They just expect everyone to do well in NBME without preparing them for the NBME. That's a challenging part. So if you guys are having issues with this, that's what we're here for, because ideally, if you're in medical school, you have to pass a test to get sponsored to sit. You already have graduated. Some of you have. You don't have to worry about the NBMEs. I personally would take one to see how I would do before the actual exam. But at the same time, I do have students using Amboss and UWorld, and they use self-assessment tests, 2 of them. Then they do the free 120, the old and the new one, and multiple simulated questions from both banks. As long as the average, as long as the scores are above average on all those assessments, you don't even have to walk in and do an NBME. We just use them to gauge students, especially if we haven't met them, if we haven't seen them, or if you really want to know if you know your stuff. Right? But NBMEs are challenging. I get pissed because they're just horrible questions, very tricky, and it really puts a damper and a hold on people's career. Versus, hey man, if you can pass the assessment tests, like if you could pass two UWorld self-assessment tests and pass the 120 U and O, there's 4 tests right there. You can do well in all those 4, and your QBank score statistics are above 66, 70% consistently, you're good to go take the test. You don't need any NBMEs. Because NBMEs are 50 question blocks. The first 100 you can't break, 200 questions. So if you're not used to doing that, honestly say that your performance was not maybe damaged, affected because of stamina and endurance. So physicals, NBM explanations suck. If you would just like to get to the point, yeah, they do suck. NBMEs suck. So I wanted to do a couple because, again, many of my students, including some here, have taken NBME to move forward, and those who are not here now watch the recording later. Again, I need to be able to speak to everyone. So some of us are not here. They see this later. I want one of you guys to jump on, raise your hand. Let's do a couple. And again, we'll do them live because this is exactly what you need to know. NBMEs are testing your concepts. No. So you guys know this, especially if you've been studying for a while. You guys have seen this information over and over again. It's just to what degree. So I will pull up the first question. And again, these are offlines. These are retired questions. So I'm not showing you guys NBMEs that are online, because if you are going to take them, I don't want to affect that for you. Plus, it's unethical to share things that shouldn't be shared because those are online. It's forbidden in the USMLE world. But these are offline questions I'm going to show you. Okay, so let's see. Raise your hand, guys. Especially I see Dr. Singh on board. Come on, Dr. Singh. Let's do it. I know your test is coming up soon. I see everyone else here. Do a couple live. Let's see how. All right. Singh has no choice. Dr. Singh on the West Coast.
Good, how are you?
Wonderful. I love your passion. I love your desire and discipline, like everyone else here. Is your test coming up? Right? So you have to
Yes.
push. Now, let me ask you, do you have to take an NBME for your school?
They do definitely want to see scores for it. So I do have to take one.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely ready to take one yet, so I'm still working on that before I
So in
do.
order for you to take the step, they need to see comp an NBME. If you don't do it in time, then you can't skip a step.
They'll still let me sit for step, but they would prefer to see the scores.
Okay. Okay. So again, right? So everyone here, some might need to, might not need to. Let's attack a few questions. I want you guys all to work together as a team. Now, again, this is random. This is NBME. So let's read the scenario, and I want you to then tell me what you think is going on. Let's talk about it and see if we can come to a okay, because these are straight NBME. These are real questions, older version. Okay, let's attack.
Mhm. Okay, should I read just from the beginning since they're short?
Whatever you like.
Okay. A 63-year-old woman undergoes operative repair of a leaking berry aneurysm in the circle of Willis. 2 days later, a CT scan of the head shows a widening of the subarachnoid space. Which of the following changes in cerebrospinal fluid is most likely cause of this finding?
This question sucks because if I was on you, I is used to QBank questions about Amboss. So when I see something like this, I'm like, what? Well, it's hard, but we'll get through it. So,
Mhm.
what do you think is going on in the case? What do we have to think about? Think outside the box, make some connections. What are we thinking?
Um,
see, what do we see in the case? There's very few things in the case. We have leaky berry aneurysm, okay?
Yeah, so there's that.
Some leak, sure. 2 days later, CT scan of the head shows a widened subarachnoid space. Keep moving. What does it say? Which of the following change in CSF is most likely cause of this finding? So when you see that, what do you think is going on?
Change in CSF, like either like because there's a berry aneurysm, I'm assuming that they're just leaking out.
Well, it says she undergoes an operative repair of a leaking berry aneurysm. She's actually going through a procedure, right? So they're going through a procedure. This is the second part because these are only 2 lines, right? So she's undergoing an operative repair of this, right? 2 days later, I mean, 2 days later, there's widening of subarachnoid space. What do you know about subarachnoid space? We have to start thinking about what, guys?
Like
Arachnoid granulation, subarachnoid space. We're thinking about CSF fluid, right? Because they're asking you, they say, which of the following changes in CSF is most likely to is the cause of the finding?
like
So this is a deterrent of sorts because it's like, all right, that there's repair for that. 2 days later, there's widening of subarachnoid space. That's what's going on with the CSF.
So
what should you automatically think? What?
I'm thinking there's too much of it. So I would take out like the decreased options.
So take out the decreased options. But let me ask you this before that. If you don't know what's going on, you can look at numerous things. A, they're telling you CSF. So that's one. B, there's some widening of subarachnoid space. We know where the subarachnoid space is? Should, right? And then you're thinking, maybe I'm not exactly sure what's going on. Look at the answer choices. We have choroid plexus, right? Arachnoid villi, and cerebral aqueduct. There's only 3 different terms. So this should trigger something about hydrocephalus, maybe communicating versus non-communicating. Because again, this is going straight to the path of CSF fluid. Right? So now we say, well, either A, I get distracted by this, sucks. B, there's some widening of subarachnoid space. Okay. It tells us about CSF. If that's not helping you, get this. Always go to the answer choice. The answer choices can help you lead your thoughts to where they want. You see this, you see this, you see this. That being said, now we have either absorption, right, and movement. We have decreased absorption of the choroid plexus, decreased movement through arachnoid villi, decreased movement through the cerebral aqueduct. Do any of these terms trigger anything?
So, okay, so then, all right, with the berry aneurysm being fixed.
Take this out completely. You don't need to know. This is irrelevant.
So then could it be talking about like,
do you agree though? I mean, we're talking out, we're just communicating. Do you agree? Do you see why the first part isn't relevant to talk?
Yeah. So then would this be like more of like a obstructive hydrocephalus?
Well, we have communicating and non-communicating, right?
Yeah, communicating.
Yes. So we have issues that they obstruct versus no obstruct. Okay. So now, being that we know one versus the other, we look at the terms. We have decreased absorption by the choroid plexus, arachnoid villi, cerebral aqueduct. You know what the cerebral aqueduct is? You know any of this stuff, guys? It's challenging, right? You have to figure out what we know versus what we don't. First things first, we just move this page. First things first, we have to figure out what's going on. What does physics say in the chat? Physics, what does she say?
Decreased absorption can cause CSF in the space, more CSF in the